This video is going to cover 5 Seesaw pro tips that you may or may not have heard of before. The first one we're going to look at is providing links and instructions for Seesaw activities. This is a second grade example. You can see the instructions are for the entire week. Whether it's a long assignment or short assignment, it's nice to know that you can link in videos from Google Drive, from YouTube, or even in this case from Adobe Spark within the instructions of your activity. In order to do this, whenever you go to add and assign an activity, and then create a new activity or copy and edit one that you have liked from the library, you're simply going to paste in links and instructions here. You can see that as I start typing out my instructions, I could provide those little icons for students, and then I can just paste in links to anything I want them to view before or during the activity. I can also add voice instructions, which is really helpful if students need to hear the instructions from the teacher, provide an example or a template. Going along with linking in instructions, it's important to know that students can view instructions during the activity. This is really helpful if they need to reference the resources. Here's what it looks like. If I'm a student going to add to this activity, I'm going to click on Add Response, and then notice as my activity pulls up, I have the View Instructions option right here. Anytime I click that, I can reference over. It's going to open a new tab for me to watch the additional video or look at the resource that's been added. And then I can toggle back over to Seesaw to exit out of the instructions and get started. Anytime they need a quick reference on what they're supposed to be doing, they can just pull up those instructions, exit, and then come back to keep editing. The third pro tip is showing students that they have the right to hide creative tools if needed. If I'm in the same activity, you can see all of my creative tools at the bottom. These creative tools aren't really in the way of my activity, but if I wanted to hide those, maybe these were covering up like an image or a box I was needing to edit in, you can just click on this square up at the top left-hand corner to hide creative tools, and then pull them back in when you're ready. Next, we'll look at another small feature for students, which is the zoom feature. No matter what Seesaw activity you're in, you can click on the zoom button at the top to zoom in on the page. This is especially great if you're annotating maybe a big piece of text or just have a page with a lot of information on it. Notice from here, I can make my writings quite a bit more precise if I'm zoomed in than I would be if I was zoomed out. So then I can zoom back out and everything remains the same size. The last pro tip goes along with the premium features that we have with Seesaw for Schools. One of these is the Save Draft feature, and the other is multiple pages. You can see that this activity currently has 6 different pages. As you create templates within activities for students, you can provide structure on multiple pages so that they can do different assignments all within one. In order to save a draft, maybe the student sits down in one setting but isn't able to finish all of the pages, they can click off on draft to come back and save it later. It's important to note that in order to use the draft feature for students, you'll need to change your sign-in method to class code 1-to-1 devices. This would be an issue if we weren't using at-home learning codes to change in the middle of the year like this. However, since students are accessing Seesaw with their at-home learning code, you are free to change that sign-in method so that they can use the Saves Draft feature. If you're using a Google login, that feature will be there as well. All right. Those are 2 premium features that are available, and we'll show really quickly how to change that sign-in method if you're interested. You're going to go to your settings, student sign-in mode, and I'm going to change to 1-to-1 devices. Notice that it says here that it's recommended only for classrooms where each student has their own device. Since we're using the at-home learning codes, you're completely fine to change that for now. And then we'll show what the save draft looks like for a student who saves their draft. Okay, if I wanted to add to a multiple page activity, I'm going to click on Add Response. I'm working, maybe I haven't finished all 4 of my pages, so I'm going to click on Draft. And then you'll note that this draft is visible to you and to the student that it's been tagged in, so they can go back and finish their draft at any time. Hopefully these 5 pro tips have been helpful. Before ending this video, we're going to show just one bonus tip, and that's archiving used activities. So if I go to my Seesaw class, you can see that I have several activities here that are definitely outdated. Now granted, this is a test class, but your feed probably gets pretty big. What you're going to do is click on the 3 dots, and then you can archive the activity. This is available after students have answered. The archived activities will then go to my archived folder over here, but that cleans things up for students so that they just see what's most important. If nobody has responded to the activity, you won't see archive. Instead, you would see delete activity. For questions about Seesaw, feel free to reach out to your instructional technologist. The Seesaw Help Center is also very helpful as well, as you can search for questions or even just look at categories and get some of your questions answered as well. It's just help.seesaw.me.